Hello again, everyone, and thanks so much for joining me. I'm Frederica Whitfield. We have new details about captured killer David Sweat and his fellow escapee. Sweat is spilling details to authorities from his hospital bed, where we're learning today he remains in fair condition. He told officials he had some close calls while on the run, at one point seeing officers below him while he was hiding in a hunting stand above. Richard Matt, who was shot and killed by police, reached out to his daughter in a letter just before breaking out. CNN's Deborah Farrick has more.
Killer Richard Matt was so confident he would elude immediate capture after breaking out of his maximum security prison, he sent his daughter a letter. Law enforcement sources telling the Buffalo News, Matt wrote, "I always promised I would see you on the outside. I'm a man of my word." The daughter, who lives in a suburb of Buffalo, New York, reportedly received the letter 3 days after her father's dramatic escape from Clinton Correctional Facility, about 350 miles across state. There's no indication she knew in advance of her father's plans. Matt spent 20 days on the run before a Border Patrol Special Operations team found him alone behind a tree. He was shot 3 times in the head after apparently aiming a 20-gauge shotgun at an officer. Matt's body has been taken to the Buffalo area after his family had a change of heart and decided to claim the body. The funeral home says there will be no public or private services. David Sweat is listed in fair condition. He continues to heal from 2 gunshot wounds he sustained during his capture. Police put out a photo of the type of backpack he was carrying when arrested, just 2 miles from the Canadian border. They believe the inmates took it from a camping ground in Franklin or Clinton County and are asking the owner to come forward, possibly to trace the escapee's route. The Department of Corrections has been criticized for failing to order a total lockdown of the Clinton facility following a fight in the yard a week before the escape. A corrections official tells CNN that only a partial lockdown was necessary because the melee among 30 inmates in the prison yard lasted less than a minute, involved no weapons, and only 1 injury. Security measures have been tightened to ensure daily random cell checks and weekly security inspections. Deborah Farrick, CNN, New York.
All right, so what's next for captured inmate David Sweat? Joining me to discuss is Arthur Roderick, former Assistant Director of U.S. Marshal's Office, who has headed up a number of high-profile fugitive cases, and criminal defense lawyer and CNN legal analyst Philip Holloway. All right, good to see both of you. All right, so Arthur, you first. Let me begin with you. So what kind of information might be real credible that investigators can get from Sweat while he is in the hospital?
Well, I think obviously right now you've got contradicting stories on the possible conspiracy to commit murder referencing the husband. Obviously, I think what you have right now is a he said, she said. And if there was no overt act committed in furtherance of that particular crime, then, you know, nothing will move forward on that. And he'll just be looking at the escape charges and possibly some other charges related to that escape. Obviously, there was some breaking and entering charges that are possible into some of the cabins. And I don't think we've heard the last of any of these cabins being broken into.
Right. And so, Philip, you know, Sweat was already in prison, you know, convicted of murdering a sheriff's deputy. He wasn't looking at being out of jail anytime soon. So now he's facing new charges. What could those charges be, and how might prison life be any different for him now?
Well, certainly he's not going anywhere, and this is, for him, it's all about how his life is going to look in prison going forward. Because if he's charged with escape, or if he's charged with burglary and convicted, who cares? Right. It doesn't matter. It's meaningless. He's going nowhere. So anything that he's telling them right now, the only hope for any benefit that he can get from this is that he will not spend every single day of his life locked inside a hole in solitary confinement. So that's what this is all about from his perspective.
So Arthur, likely he wouldn't be returning to the Clinton Correctional Facility, would he? Would it be a different facility, whether it's Clinton or somewhere else? What would his confinement be like?
I mean, I think Philip is exactly right. He's trying to cut a deal right now so that he's not locked up 23 hours a day and only 1 day out of the jail for, you know, out of his cell to exercise. So whatever he's saying now, he's trying to cut a deal.
So what kind of deal? What kind of leverage does he have? What does that mean?
Well, I mean, I think the leverage he's got is, what other crimes occurred inside the facility, besides the one that he's charged with. He could work a deal with that type of information. But I think he's, this is all he's trying to do right now is not spend 23 hours a day locked up in his jail cell.
So, Philip, we're talking about 12 people who were with the Clinton Correctional Facility on leave already as a result of this kind of investigation. So is it believed that Sweat would divulge enough information to lay the groundwork for charges that any of these 12 on leave or others might face?
Right, that's very possible. And of course, Joyce Mitchell, of course, the main accomplice, she's already confessed. She talked and talked and talked before she was even arrested. So they will not need his testimony to convict her. As for anybody else that may or may not be charged, they're going to have to independently verify all of the information that he's been giving them, because he is a convicted felon and he has lots of reasons why a jury should not believe him. So they're going to need to do more than just use his testimony to try to convict anybody else in connection with any crimes.
So it needs to be corroborated, and that might involve any of those 12 perhaps, and maybe there would be some deal making with them too.
That's always a possibility, and when you have a larger conspiracy like what we might see here, that's very common, that prosecutors will cut deals with one person in order to convict somebody of something more serious. So yes, I think that's a very real possibility.
And is it likely, Arthur, do you see others who might be either put on leave or may even be facing charges? Is this bigger than what we've...
Now, you also have to realize there's two separate investigations going on in this particular case. You have the FBI in there looking at public corruption issues, and then you got the New York State Inspector General's office who's actually looking at the escape itself and the conspiracy involved in that particular crime.
All right. Arthur Roderick, Philip Holloway, thanks to both of you gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
All right. And we'll be right back.